Straight ahead on 12 News, the latest on an officer-involved shooting in New Hope, what we know about the officer and what we know about the suspect. But first, a grieving town, a grieving nation.
Can we honestly say that we're doing enough to keep our children, all of them, safe from harm?
And what local school districts are doing to ease the fears of children. 12 News starts right now. As the nation comes to grips with Friday's school shootings in Newtown, Connecticut, local school districts tried to react quickly.
District administrators sent out letters, made phone calls, and provided support to those who need it. And in some cases, extra precautions were taken to provide a safe school environment. Delane Cleveland has more.
The magic.
The images of a normal school day consist of children learning and teachers teaching.
Entered the school.
But Friday in Newtown, Connecticut,
there were several fatalities at the scene.
The images broadcast over the national airwaves painted a picture of horror and innocence lost.
This isn't a rare instance anymore, and I'm sad to say that.
Jane Ellis is principal of Earl Brown Elementary in Brooklyn Center.
I think what's so devastating about this is that it hits home. Such disrespect for human life.
Devastation that's reverberated throughout the nation. Yet at Earl Brown, teachers and faculty tried to conduct the day like it was business as usual, to the point that they asked us to use file video rather than bring cameras into classrooms.
Having the camera crews there tells us that there's something extraordinary happening. And that wasn't the lens that we wanted to address this situation with.
Instead, Ellis hoped to make today as routine as possible. Meantime, district officials admit that Earl Brown Elementary has one design flaw.
The way that building was built, people can walk in the building without going into the office.
However, from this day forward, they'll have somebody who monitors that door, checking the IDs of anybody who tries to enter.
It gives a sense of confidence and security for our parents, for our staff.
At least for the short term. Long term, Superintendent Lester says they're going to revise the school's crisis plan and proceed with a heightened sense of security.
The door is locked, watching for strangers, watching kids for messages, watching, all of those kinds of things that we already have in place.
Precautions that Lester hopes will keep all of Brooklyn Center's students safe.
We'll take a deep breath and say, let's take care of our kids and let's take care of each other.
Delane Cleveland, 12 News.
Brooklyn Center schools do have one liaison officer who splits time between both the high school and the elementary school. District officials say the officer will have a greater presence at Earl Brown Elementary in the coming days.
Local Congressman Keith Ellison says the Connecticut shootings serve as yet another wake-up call for sensible gun regulations. Ellison says the Congressman Gifford's shooting wasn't enough to stir the nation, but perhaps this will be.
We have legislation that we want to see taken up that would ban high-capacity clips, cut up the gun show loophole, and have mandatory background checks. These are reasonable things.
Ellison says these proposed regulations won't interfere with Second Amendment rights, but will attempt to keep guns out of the hands of people who are violently unstable. The Connecticut shootings have many parents grappling with how to address their child's fears.
It's a conversation made all the more difficult as parents struggle themselves with the tragedy. And joining us now to help guide the discussion is Shelley Davenport. She is a licensed therapist with Beacon Therapy in Champlin. Thanks so much for joining us, Shelley.
Well, thank you for having me.
Today, of course, is the first day back to school since the shooting. And I know some parents have purposely sheltered their children and not talked about this. But for those children that do know about it and express fear about going back to school or concerns that it could happen to them, what would you advise parents tell their children?
I would advise parents to tell their children to, first to listen to what their fears are and talk to them according to their developmental level. And just explain to them that this isn't of course, a tragedy. It's not an everyday occurrence, and that their officials at school are doing everything they can to make sure they're safe and that their environment is a learning environment.
Of course, you mentioned age appropriate, and that is key. Mm-hmm. How do you decide how many details to give based on your child's age, and do you ever suggest swaying from the truth?
I don't suggest swaying from the truth from your kids. Your kids deserve to be told the truth according to their developmental level. Your kids will know what questions to ask and asking the question, is their way of processing emotion and understanding the events that have happened. I don't believe you need to give them exact details, but just giving them a global answer and allowing them to digest that. And it may take them a day or two to come back and ask another question, but allow them some time to digest what they've heard. And but to never, dishonesty is not a good characteristic that we want to teach our kids, and so we don't want to portray that as a parent. But one of the things that I think is crucial is that our kids look to us as a kind of a barometer of how to relate to events that are going on in their lives, whether it's this tragedy or some other tragedy. So how you compose yourself when you're talking to them is a good way to interact with your kids.
So be calm to teach them how to be calm and that kind of thing.
Right.
And you don't have to tell them everything, but be honest with what happened. Obviously, talking through it is one way. It's a coping mechanism. Are there other ways to cope or other mechanisms that might work with children?
Sometimes with kids, especially our kids that are younger and probably less verbal or don't have the vocabulary to express their emotions, coloring, always drawing, playing with toys. Sometimes action figures can play out some things that they're feeling, and just ask how that makes them feel when they're playing or what they're drawing, because you're really trying to get to the emotion, and not as much as the details. The details don't matter as much as how they're feeling about it.
And of course, you want to be watching for those signs and those triggers. Shelley Davenport with Beacon Therapy, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
In other news, police are still investigating what led to an officer-involved shooting in New Hope early Friday morning.
Today, police released the name of the off-duty Crystal police officer involved. Reporter Shannon Slatton has more.
It doesn't make any sense.
Early Friday morning, neighbors in New Hope shook their heads over the police tape and the crime lab at their nearby Holiday gas station.
It's so weird.
3 days later, law enforcement is still trying to piece together exactly what happened that led up to an officer-involved shooting.
The officer involved in this incident is Officer Jerry Crobe, a 13-year veteran of the Crystal Police Department.
Monday morning, in a joint press conference between Crystal and New Hope Police, Chief Stephanie Feely released the name of the off-duty police officer who was involved in some sort of altercation at the gas station, just before the suspect drove off in the officer's personal car.
Although the Hennepin County Sheriff's Office will continue their investigation of this incident, I am confident that this investigation will determine that our officer acted in accordance with department policy, and it will be determined that this was justified use of force.
Officer Jerry Crobe has been with Crystal Police for 13 years. 12 News interviewed him here in 2000 about a Citizens Police Academy.
We're just normal people that have all the same concerns as most of the people in the community have.
Officer Crobe is now on paid administrative leave, which is standard procedure.
Today, Hennepin County charged the suspect, 38-year-old Eric Landers of Brooklyn Center, with 1 count of aggravated robbery and 1 count of attempted aggravated robbery. Jen and Alex, Landers was arrested on Friday, but he has been released from jail. That's what records show.
All right, thank you.
Thanks a lot, Shannon. A Plymouth man is accused of threatening to kill his wife and a New Hope man with an axe. Paul Ondamu is charged with 2 counts of making terroristic threats. According to the criminal complaint, Ondamu bought an axe after suspecting his wife and the other victim were having an affair. There's much more to come on 12 News, including a major business deal involving Caribou coffee.
Then later in sports, Wayzata and Eden Prairie need overtime to decide a winner in girls hockey.
But first, it's a look at your AccuWeather forecast.
A major jolt of business news locally. Brooklyn Center-based Caribou Coffee has been sold. A German investment group has agreed to buy a majority stake of Caribou for about $340 million. In a news release, Caribou says it will continue to operate as an independent company and its headquarters will remain in Brooklyn Center. Well, this month, a new small business opened its doors in Robbinsdale geared for you and your pooch.
In this week's Business Matters, we visit a place that takes the mess out of washing your dog.
Good girl.
At Robbinsdale's newest business, there's 2 dogs in the tub, and the rub-a-dub-dub part can be done by the pros or by you.
The self-serve is where someone can come in and do it themselves. Full serve is where we do it, and then we'll offer the grooming as well.
Welcome to Bark and Bathe, Robbinsdale's first self-serve dog wash and dog salon.
She's a pro.
Opened by residents George Selman and Karen Moe.
It's a way to keep the mess out of your house and bring the mess to us, and we'll clean it up after you.
Oh, boy, that took a lot of hair out.
It's not a new concept. Originally started on the West Coast, self-service dog washes are gaining popularity in the metro.
This is really good. The dog likes it.
Judy Ballet is back for a second time with her Doberman Piper.
You know, at home when you're washing the dog, you normally can't even get into the hard-to-reach places under the dog or whatever.
With 4 bathing stations.
So you could definitely do a large Great Dane in here, St. Bernard.
And with an organic line of products for use and bathing tools at the ready, dogs get a do-it-yourself, first-class wash here. There's also a thorough blow-dry, so no more wet fur flying around the house. Piper the Doberman is getting warmed up to the idea of this place, and so is her owner.
You walk out of here, you're done, the dog's dry, the dog's happy, the dog looks like $1 million, and I don't have that huge mess. The self-service dog wash is priced according to the dog's size and weight, but it ranges between $10 and $20, and no cleanup afterwards.
Yeah, that's the key.
That's the big one. Still ahead, a place in Maple Grove you could call the land of 10,000 hats.
But first in sports, highlights from a thriller in boys basketball as Cooper battles Wayzata. John Jacobson is in next.
John Jacobson joins us now at sports.
We're starting with a basketball game that was pretty exciting.
Oh, it was very exciting. Yeah, fun game to watch and a thriller right down to the wire. Despite a preseason top 10 ranking, it's been a struggle early for the Wayzata boys basketball team. The Trojans were seeking their first win in 4 tries when they hosted an 0-1 Cooper team. Wayzata starts strong in this game. Sam Joyner hits Drake Mianis cutting down the lane for 2 and an early 8-2 Trojans lead. Bradley Carlson is open. He drains a 3-pointer here. He's one of 4 Wayzata players to score in double figures. They're up 9. Cooper's Rashad Vaughn gets a putback off the missed shot from Marquise Gray to help hold the Hawks within 6 points at halftime. Second half, Troy Vaughn to his brother Rashad for the dunk, and Cooper is back to within a point. Wayzata, though, scores the next 5. Zach Robertson hits a 3. He scores 28 points in the game. But this long 3 by Rashad Vaughn is part of a 15-3 run for Cooper. Vaughn nets 33 points in the game. Cooper is up by 4. Late in regulation, Johnny Benega to Mianis going baseline for the layup. This game goes to overtime. LeVar McCullough puts Cooper back in front in the OT with a 3. 72-71 Hawks. It's back and forth throughout overtime. Robertson makes another 3, and Wayzata is back in front. Cooper, though, gets the winning shot with 23 seconds to go. Gray hits the jump hook for 2 as Cooper edges Wayzata 77-76 in overtime. Osseo and Park Center tip off in their #1 versus #2 boys basketball matchup Tuesday night. Osseo tuned up for that game as they faced Andover. Wheeler Baker tries but has it knocked away. And the Orioles get it to Rakeem Felder for the hoop and a foul and an early 11-0 lead. Former Wayzata assistant Nick Tibasar is now Andover's head coach, and it's a long night for the Huskies. Bridge Tussler's layup rolls off, but Ian Tyson's there for the putback. Osseo leads 22-9. Tyson scores 31 in the game. Nice ball movement for Osseo, leads to an open 3 for Baker. He nails it. Osseo's all over the Huskies, leading 33-15. It's an almost perfect first half for top-ranked Osseo. Tussler holds for the last shot of the half and nails it. The Arrows take a 48-18 lead into the halftime break. And you keep it up at least early in the second half. Baker drives to the hoop for the layup and a 53-24 lead for the Orioles. Tussler sets up Tyson later for a dunk, and a little icing on the cake. Osseo rolls to an 83-47 win. We'll hear from Osseo and Park Center about their big matchup Tuesday starting at 4 on 12 News. The Lake Conference season is now underway in girls hockey. Wayzata has played well in non-conference games. The Trojans hosting Eden Prairie in their Lake Conference opener Saturday. Late first period, Ellison Kirk, nice move around the defender. Her shot is wide, but Caitlin Klein plays it off the back wall, buries the shot, 1-0 Wayzata. In the second period, Charlie Dahlquist makes a rush for the Eagles and scores to make it 1-1. Third period, Hannah Bangan springs Carly Noble with this pass. She's in alone, but her shot is off the post, and it's still 1-1. Miscommunication by Wayzata in its defensive zone gives EP a chance, and McKenna Lorenz makes a great save. We go to overtime. Dahlquist's initial shot here is blocked, but a rebound deflected in by Anna Gravel for the winning goal. Eden Prairie takes it 2-1 in overtime. And that's a look at sports for today.
Thank you, John. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
When the Maple Grove Hospital opened 3 years ago, it quickly became known for all the babies born there.
And every single baby has left the hospital wearing their very own hand-knit hat.
Oh, here's that.
And with that, the Maple Grove Grandmas presented the 10,000th hat to the Maple Grove Hospital. These knitters make hats for each and every baby. About 35 women meet at the Maple Grove Community Center to knit together, and they churn out more than 300 colorful and creative hats a month.
For them, it's a labor of love, and so it's a matter of pride. They're proud of what they do, and we're really proud of them too, and we appreciate all the time that they give, you know, to the hospital, to those new families, those babies who are staying warm thanks to their hats. So we just want to say thank you.
It takes about 3 to 4 hours to make each hat, and they are works of art. They're just so neat. Well, finally, a handyman, a family man, and now a member of the 100 Club.
Gottlieb Doctor, or Doc as his friends call him, turned 100 years old on Saturday. We attended a celebration for him at Gramercy Park Senior Living in Plymouth. Doc has lived an amazing life. At his 90th birthday, he says he never thought he'd live to see 100.
Once I got to 95, I said, I'm over the hurdle. And I was gunning for the 100th then.
Doc has had a hand in many inventions, but perhaps his most notable accomplishment is he had a hand in making the Alvin submarine, which explored the wreckage of the Titanic, and his curiosity never stopped. At 94, he bought himself a computer, so good for him.
Smart guy.
That's right.
Wow,
Keep going.
that's cool.
Thanks so much for joining us.